It is Friday, November 6. Welcome to CGN News. The Caribbean Tourism Organization, the CTO, has announced a social media campaign dubbed #The Caribbean Awaits in observance of Caribbean Tourism Month this month. The campaign aims to maintain the Caribbean's prominence as a place of solace as COVID-19 continues to impact the global travel and tourism industry. Currently, about 25 Caribbean countries have reopened their borders to commercial travel, and others are putting the necessary measures in place to welcome visitors. During the course of the month, the general public will be encouraged to share on social media the things they, quote, can't wait to experience in the Caribbean using the #The Caribbean Awaits. With the festive season approaching, Superintendent of Police for St. Kitts, Cromwell Henry, is reminding all events must have written permission by the Commissioner of Police. Superintendent Henry quoted the regulation prohibiting anyone from hosting, attending, or visiting any social activity in a public place. He explained that a public place covers any space, whether indoor or outdoor, privately or publicly owned, which is accessible to the public via payment or invitation, whether expressed or implied. The letter requesting permission to host an event can be submitted to the Basseterre Police Station or emailed to officeofcommissioner@police.kn. The Jamaica Teachers Association, the JTA, is raising concern about announced increases in Caribbean Examinations Council CXC fees and the plans for next year's exams. Information on the 2021 exams has reportedly been sent out to schools. However, JTA says there is need for full disclosure of the plans for execution of the 2021 exams. President Jasford Gabriel highlighted critical matters such as plans to address queries from the last examination period, as well as the format and proposed timing of the 2021 examinations. Additionally, he wants a justification for the increased costs for these exams, quote, especially if the plan is still not to have the long paper, that's the paper 2, that students paid for last year, but which was not done, end quote. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has created history in the Caribbean community, leading the Unity Labour Party, ULP, to a 5th consecutive victory in Thursday's general election. Preliminary figures released by the Electoral Office showed that the ULP had won 9 of the 15 seats in the Parliament, an increase of 3 seats on the 1-seat majority he had in the past 2 general elections. It is the first time that a political party has won 5 consecutive general elections in St. Vincent. A federal appeals court has allowed a Trump administration rule that will deny green cards to immigrants who use public benefits like food stamps to go back into effect. The policy will continue until the court considers the case. The Election Day development was the latest dizzying twist in a legal battle over the controversial rule that the Trump administration argues helps ensure those who are self-sufficient to come into the country. District Judge Gary Feinerman in Chicago struck down the rule, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services stopped applying it to pending applications. Government attorneys appealed, and the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals put a hold on the ruling, allowing the restrictions to take effect again. The rain-heavy remains of Hurricane Eta flooded homes from Panama to Guatemala on Thursday as the death toll across Central America rose to at least 57. Forecasters said the once mighty storm, now a tropical depression, was expected to regather and head toward Cuba and possibly the Gulf of Mexico by early next week. The storm that hit Nicaragua as a Category 4 hurricane on Tuesday had become more of a vast tropical rainstorm, but it was advancing so slowly and dumping so much rain that much of Central America remained on high alert. Governments and aid organizations warned that the flooding and landslides the heavy rain generated had created a slow-moving humanitarian disaster across much of the region. Early this morning, Democratic nominee Joe Biden took the lead in Georgia, where 99% of the state vote count has been reported. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, Biden is only behind President Trump by a little more than 18,000 votes in the Keystone State, after having trailed at one point by more than 500,000 ballots in the hours after polls closed. Tens of thousands of votes, most of them strongly Democratic areas, including around Philadelphia, remain to be counted. Trump cannot find a route to 270 electoral votes without Georgia's 16 electoral votes and Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes, so his chances of securing re-election will hinge on developments in the two states. Biden now has 253 electoral votes. If he wins Pennsylvania, he's over the 270 electoral vote threshold. If he wins Georgia, he's at 269. President Donald Trump's two sons have rebuked Republicans for failing to back the president as he struggles to win re-election. Trump's eldest son, Don Jr., accused the party of being weak. His brother Eric warned, quote, "Our voters will never forget if you're sheep," end quote. The spat reflects an emerging rift between Trump disciples and the party. The election still hangs in the balance, but Democratic candidate Joe Biden appears to be closing in on victory. Trump has vowed to mount legal challenges to the vote counting process after claiming, without evidence, that there is widespread voter fraud. Senior Republicans, such as Utah Senator Mitt Romney and Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, have warned against undermining the democratic process. The UN General Assembly moved Thursday to hold a special session focused on international coordination in response to the coronavirus pandemic from December 3 to 4 in New York. Discussed since June, the meeting is intended to bring together heads of state and government, according to a resolution adopted by 150 of the 193 General Assembly members. No country voted against the measure, while the U.S., Israel, and Armenia abstained. Leaders will be able to submit 5-minute pre-recorded statements to be broadcast in the General Assembly Hall. The clips will be played after short introductions from representatives physically present in the room, according to the resolution. The United States has already indicated it is opposed to an expanded role for the World Health Organization in fighting the pandemic, a stance facing major Russia pushback. Turkey has fined several social media platforms 10 million lira, $1.18 million each, for not complying with a new social media law. The new law requires platforms with more than 1 million daily users in Turkey to abide by orders to remove offensive content within 48 hours and store user data inside Turkey. Critics said the law would muzzle dissent from people who resorted to online platforms after the government tightened its grip on mainstream media. The fines are the first step in an escalating scale of penalties that can end in a block on 90% of the site's internet traffic bandwidth. Chairman of the Information and Communications Technologies Authority said on Twitter on Wednesday that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, and TikTok would be fined. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has spoken with his French counterpart amid controversy over recent comments he made about free expression. Trudeau expressed Canada's solidarity with the people of France following the recent terror attacks. A teacher was beheaded in a Paris suburb after showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad to some of his pupils. Trudeau's remarks last week about freedom of expression were criticized in both Canada and France. French President Emmanuel Macron's defense of the publication of the cartoons sparked protests in some Muslim-majority countries. There have been calls in some countries for a boycott of French goods. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.